out of nowhere, I'm starting to have this anxiety. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't go. Like, I cannot get on that plane. I'm having panic attacks. I can't leave my house. I can't go to work out without feeling like I'm having a heart attack. And I'm like, this is not right. Like, something is not right. So I ended up canceling my contract, my first professional contract. I signed everything. Wow. So after that, I'm like, my career is over. Like, people are thinking, you can't depend on this girl because she's going to sign and she's not going to get on that plane.
Welcome back to the Eurostep, a podcast that explores the intersection between sport and story. Every week we interview professional female basketball players about their overseas experiences. I'm your host, Peyton Williams, and this is my co-host,
Maddie Pryor. I hardly know her.
There it is.
One day, I will stop saying that. But
today's not that day.
Today's not that day, and the silence after, I can't stomach it. I just have to say it. I have to.
It's an old faithful at this point. I mean, this is our 4th episode, so.
I mean, right. I mean, the people, they want it. They've written in, they want it, so.
They're telling me. I hear them. They're shouting for it in the streets. They love it.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yes. But Maddie, joining us today, we have none other than Katrina Pardee. Katrina, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Do you have a nickname that you prefer that we call you, by the way? Or Katrina's good?
I mean, Katrina's good, but everybody calls me KP if it's easier.
KP, that's so
easy,
fun.
Yeah. Partly because all of my overseas coaches can never say my name. I'm not sure why. I feel like it's fairly simple, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird, the names that are hard for some people, but yeah. I feel like that's not a crazy name by any means. Does it come from, is it a family name or anything?
No.
My first question, since we're talking about your name, Katrina, as a player, were you ever nicknamed Hurricane Katrina? Did that ever come up? Okay.
Yes.
It feels like low-hanging fruit, but.
So I played flag football when I was younger, we won national championships and all that. And I remember this kid on my team was this was right after the hurricane happened. He was like, "Hey, can I call you Hurricane?" And I was like, "Sure."
What are you going to say?
I get it all the time. All the time.
That is amazing.
That is pretty sick, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that, honestly.
You really can't. All respect and rest in peace to the victims of the terrible hurricane, but
of course,
makes a pretty cool nickname.
Right. Yes. Well, KP, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Texas, Austin, Texas.
Okay, and you're from Texas?
Yeah, so I was born in California in San Diego. I lived there for about 9 years. Then I moved out to Texas.
Okay. So you have a little bit of California girl in you.
Yeah.
You have family out there still?
Yeah, all my family's out there.
Okay, gotcha. And you're picking up and flying out tomorrow, huh?
Yes, absolutely, because this heat is not it. Absolutely not.
It's been pretty decent so far, at least in Kansas. Maddie, how's it been in Arkansas?
South Arkansas weather is very similar to southern Texas weather, and our humidity is pretty, the heat is killing me. I live at the pool these days, so it's terrible. Yeah. The South is godless when it comes to this weather. I can't. This is hell.
Well, I'm going to read a little intro about you. It's a brief intro because I always run into this issue with anyone who comes on my podcast. It's the intro is so so small and so humble about themselves. I'm like, you guys, you gotta kind of flex a little bit, but it's fine. We'll get there.
We'll do it for you.
Right, exactly. So this is Katrina Pardee, otherwise known as KP, otherwise known as Hurricane Katrina. She's been playing overseas for 5 years, 9 countries total. And recently, she's had her first WNBA training camp experience. Claps for that. She played in college at West Virginia, and she lives in North Austin in Texas and has family in California, as we just learned. So, I mean, let's just start at the very beginning. A very good place to start, as they say in The Sound of Music. Did you always think that you wanted to play basketball growing up?
So actually, when I was in California, I played a whole bunch of sports like baseball, soccer, volleyball, all that stuff. But I didn't play basketball until I moved to Texas. And I was talking to my mom about this one day. I was like, why did I start playing? Like, how'd that even happen? She said, like, we were just driving down the street and I saw a sign for it, some league. And I was like, yeah, I want to try that. And so my parents signed me up, and then I just started playing ever since. I think that was the thing that, like, even in high school, like, I ran track, I played volleyball in middle school, flag football. So I was doing a lot, but basketball was the thing that really stuck with me.
You literally had a sign to play basketball.
Literally.
Like, literally, there was a sign.
Literally.
And how old were you?
Story.
I was like 10 or 11, I want to say.
Wow. That's so funny. So that's how it all started. From then on, it wasn't like I'm going to be playing in college and I'm going to be playing in overseas, or?
No. So I was playing in middle school. Like, basketball was obviously the thing that I loved the most, and it was the most fun for me, and I was probably the best at it out of the other sports. That's why I liked it the most. And then even when I was in high school, my sophomore year, I think my parents sat me down and was like, this is expensive. Like, do you want to do this for real, or is this just for fun? Because we need to know. Like, we don't need to be paying for all these flights, all these hotels, all this training. And I was like, no, like, I think I want to do this. Like, I want to go to college. And then once I got to college, like, I remember my freshman year, we had our foreign tour, and we went to Spain and we went to London. And even when we went on that, like, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm ready to go home. Like, I could never play overseas.
Wow.
And then, like, my junior, senior year of college, I was like, yeah, like, I want to try it. And then once I went over there, like, I love it. I love traveling. Yeah, so it was never, like, my dream all along. But once I, like, noticed it coming a reality a little bit more, I was like, okay, I want to do this.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like your story is really unique compared to other, just others I've heard of professional basketball players, where like a lot of them start when they're 3, you know, and they have this, like, they got posters in their room, like they are wanting, this is what they want to do with their life, right? So it's so interesting that you're just like driving along as like a 10-year-old and see a sign and you're like, I guess I'll play basketball. And you just have the gift for it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you said you played flag football, so maybe you could have easily gone professional in that too, had your life taken a different turn. I don't know. But so if you weren't playing professional basketball, what would you have been doing? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think, like, okay, so I never was like, I want to be this when I grow up. I was always like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know. But so originally, like, when I was in high school, I was like, I want to be a nurse. I want to go to nursing school. But especially, I mean, at any school, at any level, it's hard. But I would say, like, in a Power 5 conference with all the travel, especially with West Virginia, we're a 3-hour flight from anybody. So with that, it was just not a possibility to go to nursing school while I was playing basketball in college. They were very honest with me about that up front, and I was like, like I said, it wasn't like my dream, but it was something that I was very passionate about. And so after that, I kind of decided, like, I had torn my ACL when I was in high school, so I went through that process with my PT. I built a really good relationship with my physical therapist, so I decided, like, that's kind of what I want to do for other people who go through injuries or whatever. So I went to West Virginia and got my degree in exercise physiology, and plans to go to PT school after that. But I'm not going back to school. So I think I'll definitely end up being a coach, just because of the way that I love to mentor younger kids and the younger generation, them growing up. It's just a different world now. So I think trying to keep some of that old school back in the society and in those kids make a difference for sure.
Still some good values into the kids, please. Please.
I heard it's so tough right now for teachers and coaches and stuff. So if you do that, power to you, girl.
Absolutely. And even, like, in Texas, if you want to be a coach for the high school level or middle school, you have to teach also. And I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher, but like you can teach PE or something like that. But I'm like, God, I don't know what level I want to coach because I don't want to kiss somebody's butt, a 16-year-old trying to get them to come to my college. Like these kids are just different these days. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in these days. Yeah. I like back in our day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like we've reached like old people status the way we're like kids these days, as we're all like in our 20s, like like I can't stand them.
Right.
I feel like it just changes so fast though. Like
social media blew it up.
Yes.
For them, for sure.
Yes, social media, like there was a change for us, the kids that grew up with the internet. Like we were the first generation who did that. But then like in between our generation, like just a few years after us, it's like the kids that grew up with a smartphone, which is a different form. And
literally, I mean, I had a phone that had minutes, and I had like one tiny screen, and I could only call my mom and my dad.
Right. No internet
now it's
access.
like, oh my God, yeah. I couldn't have a MySpace. I couldn't have a Facebook till I was in like high school. Now kids are wearing crop tops to school. I'm like, what is happening?
Oh, that's right.
I was literally wearing shirts that said like "Girls Rule" with like the ugly plaid pants, like.
Absolutely, those like Bermuda shorts.
Yes,
like, plaid
every color.
I know that's right. Yes. Yes. Do y'all remember gauchos? Did y'all ever wear those like flowy pants? Like, kids wouldn't be caught dead with those today, but that felt to me like the pinnacle of fashion. So.
Oh my gosh, Limited 2 had my number for a little bit. It was like, hey girl, we got some sales on some more plaid shorts with hot pink and lime green coloring.
You had no like minutes left on your phone because you were calling up Limited 2. You're like, y'all got a sale this week.
We had the house phones. Nobody has house phones now. Like I had to give the boys my house phone number. My parents would call like, who is this?
Right. Things are too private nowadays. You used to be able to like listen in on the landline conversation.
Right.
Like it's too private now.
Yes. Well, speaking of the old days, let's go and revisit your college days. From what I could see on your stats page, I mean, everyone we have on this podcast, like, kills it in some way in college. So you had over 1,000 points, like 1,118 points. You had like just under 200 assists, which was pretty impressive. And you had like 345 like rebounds or something, which is also like how tall are you?
Big guard. I'm 5'9".
Yeah, I was like, all right, getting in there. You were also you were academic all Big 12. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about why West Virginia? Just give us a little insight into your college experience.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I got my first offer when I was a sophomore that summer, and you're calling all these coaches, whatever. Then my junior summer, like everybody knows that's the big summer to get recruited, right? So right before my junior summer, we were actually playing in a summer league for my high school team. Like just not a good league. Like there was no point for us to be playing in the summer. I went down for a fast break, did a Eurostep, and I tore my ACL. And so from then on, like immediately I was like, I'm not going to school. Like all these schools are going to take my offers away. Like I have nowhere to go. Like this is my last chance to get offers, and now it's gone. So now I'm in the process of calling the schools, telling them what happened. But I'm like, all right, so I'm going to commit to this school. So I call them to commit, and I'm like, hey, like this is what happened. I did tear my ACL. And they're like, yeah, like we have some bad news for you also. Like a girl just committed in your position. Scholarship gone. So now I'm like, what do I do? Like the school I wanted to go to, now I can't go there. Like there's no spot open for me now. So then I was still getting recruited somehow. I don't know how. Like I'm out. I don't know. So I get a call from West Virginia, and they offer me. And I was like, what? When they offered me, I was like, I have to go here. Like there's nobody else but God telling me like this is the place for you. Like everything else was gone. I thought I had nothing ahead of me, and God was like, here's your opportunity. The biggest offer I had in the Big 12, like there's so many schools in Texas in the Big 12, so my parents were able to come watch a lot, even in Oklahoma. Big 12 is a great conference. West Virginia, we ended up doing really well. We won the conference tournament my sophomore year. Yeah. So it ended up being like the perfect situation for me in the end. So yeah.
Wow. Pause. Maddie, your video is not working for me. Has it worked? Can you see her?
Yeah, no, I can't see.
I literally was about to say pause. I'm like frozen on my end. So let me leave and I'll come right back. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. 1 sec.
It's okay. Okay.
That Arkansas connection.
Right, he's out in the boonies.
Did you like Jeff Mitty?
I liked him.
Okay, so fun fact, when he was at TCU, I was in high school, and I went to their elite camp, like with a couple of my AAU teammates, and he basically was like you're not good enough. And I remember like I was like, Kansas State, when do we play them? Like I remember one game at home, I had 14 points in the first half, and I was like, take that.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Good for you. I mean, technically, I was the second recruiting class when he came to K-State. But I was like one of the first. Back. Hey, you're moving again.
I swear, my Skype is so like messed up. I have no idea what.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah. My Skype is messed up.
I was just telling KP that our Skype experience, I used to wonder why people switched to Zoom, and then now I know. So
yeah, now we know.
Now we know. But hey, it's free. We're going to be using it. So.
No, you said that you tore your ACL from doing the Eurostep move.
Yeah.
Can we just let that sink in? Like, I feel like we need to linger there for just a second. Is this traumatizing to be on a podcast literally called the Eurostep? Or is this healing? Like, is this helping you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good by now. I'm good by now. That was like, what was that? It was 10 years ago, so I'm good.
All right. Wow. All right. Okay, well, good. Glad to hear it.
This is the end of that chapter.
Yes, absolutely. Full circle moment.
So I'm so glad you enjoyed your college experience, and you guys did have some success. For more context, people who won the Big 12 tournament, like kind of a short list. It was pretty much Baylor when I was there. And so when you guys came out of seemingly nowhere to win the Big 12, crazy.
But it was the craziest thing because so we had shoot around that morning. First of all, we did not have a good season. Like, we're losing teams we shouldn't lose to multiple times. They had blocked off the logo in our locker room, and we weren't allowed to step on it anymore. We had gotten our practice gear taken from us, and we were in Walmart, like, gray shirts, neon colored shorts, because at the time we were told we were playing individually, so we were going to look like individuals. So we're like ranked, I don't know, like 6th in the tournament at that point. Yeah. So we play OU first, then Texas, then Baylor. And I want to say when we played Baylor was ranked number 1 in the country at that time. But it was so weird because we woke up for shoot around that morning, and we all just got in the gym. We were like, we're going to win. We were like, what the heck? We don't know why, but we're going to win. Like, for some reason, we just knew we were going to win. Whoa. And then we were up by 20, I think, against OU in like the first half. And we were like, what is happening? But yeah, we ended up winning. And that was crazy experience for sure. Top one of my top experiences from college for sure.
Oh, yeah. And you guys had Tynese Martin, and she popped off. She really popped off in that tournament, I remember. I was also going to ask you, because that's like kind of a highlight. I mean, from outsiders looking in, KP, your coach was a little bit, he was a little bit much. I will say that. And just hearing that story kind of confirms some of that. So, I'm not going to use the word crazy, but I've heard some stories. Let me just say that. So, what was it, I guess, your mentality going into practices with someone who was a little bit, we'll use the word volatile like that?
I was praying every day not to get stressed out for 3 hours. No, but he's definitely an old school coach. And I knew that going in, but of course, obviously, any school during the recruiting process and when you get there is very different. But I had a lot of respect for him in the way that, like, because I started all 4 years. My freshman year, preseason, I was starting. First Big 12 game, I played 6 minutes. I was barely playing after that. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, don't start me then. Like, just let me sit on the bench, like being a little prima donna. And so I went to his office one day and I was like, what do I need to do? And he told me, he was like, you need to get in the gym, you need to get stronger. So every day after that, like, I did exactly what he told me to do. And I started playing a lot more. Like my senior year, my junior year, I was averaging 35 minutes a game. So in that aspect, I really respect him because in those terms, like, he knew the work that I was putting in. He started to trust me more. And I mean, he held up to his word, like he did what he said. So he was very, very tough mentally, but I know for sure, like, after I played for him, I was like, I can play for any coach in the world after doing that. So he definitely made me a lot stronger mentally, for sure.
It sounds kind of like a trial by fire sort of situation where, like, you would not have been as good of a player as you became if you weren't having a little bit of a mental breakdown every day. Not actually, but he pushed you to be the best you could be, which maybe there could have been different methods used, but it still was valuable, clearly.
Now I think, like, you hear these stories of coaches getting investigated for, like, verbal abuse or mental abuse or whatever. I'm like, that's just the difference now, like the difference in the culture. Like, you can't say 90% of the things that you said back then now without it being a case or something else going on. So it's just a lot different. But no, for sure, I respect him a lot in that sense. Like, he pushed us for sure. He was definitely not easy, so that does help. But it's to a certain degree, like, we did have transfers. Like, not everybody, that wasn't the best way to coach everybody. So you just got to kind of learn and pick and choose your battles at that point.
So you had spoken earlier about wanting to be a coach one day, potentially. Do you feel like as you look through or think about all of the different coaches you've had, like, do you feel you've taken things from each one of them that you would want to implement yourself?
I've been blessed with pretty good coaches, like, and I've always kind of had a really good relationship with any coach that I've had. I think my assistant coaches in college and in high school really kind of pushed me to be, like, the type of coach that has an impact on players in a positive way, because everybody's different, right? Like, you learn stuff from different coaches, like some X's and O's stuff, some relationship stuff, and it's just a matter of putting all those together and knowing the audience, right? Because you're going to coach a college kid different than a high school kid or a middle school kid, and some people you need to beat them in, other people you need to lift them up. So I think through that, I've been able to kind of read players on what they need. When I was younger, even now, like, I need confidence. Like, I need to know that my coach trusts me and respects me, and I'll do the same back. And I think that makes me be able to reflect that on other younger players who need the same thing.
Yeah.
I can count the number of coaches that I've had on just a few fingers that, consider the player and the person and try to appeal to both and to bring the best out of both. And so if we have another one of those on the market with you, that would be great.
Yeah, I know, it's such a business once you get older. It's like, it's a hard world sometimes. It makes those much higher value that do come along and coach like that.
Yeah, for sure. So looking to after college for you, when did you decide that you were going to play overseas or play professionally? What did that look like, I guess?
My senior year, I was hoping to get into like a training camp or something like that, and I was actually playing really well at the beginning of my senior year. I had like, this is a preseason, so it's not the hardest of hard teams, but I had like two 30-point double doubles back to back, and I was like, I was like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? But I felt so confident. Like I was like, everything was coming together for me. Like your senior year, the game starts to slow down a little bit. Like you start to know what to look for, whatever. So we get into conference play, and I want to say like second or third conference game, I dislocate my ankle.
Yeah, I remember that.
I had to have surgery. Like it was the type of thing, like I was yelling because it hurt so bad. Like I couldn't even cry. It hurt worse than my ACL. And I remember like I went up for a layup and I came down on like this much of a girl's foot. And I looked down at my ankle and it was like sideways. And I went to grab it and it popped back in. And I was like, okay, well, at least it's back in. But I'm screaming. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know. Like it's throbbing. I don't even know what to do. End up finding out that I need surgery because my bones separated. So, and they told me like 6 to 9 weeks or something like that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I can come back, whatever. It was like a 8-month recovery. Yeah. But I was like, I ended up coming back my senior year because I'm like, this is my senior year. Like, I'm taking pain medicine. I'm limping just to be on the floor. But yeah, it was terrible. So after that, I signed to go to Germany for my first contract overseas. I'm just like, I can't, like, I'm still having pain. I'm like, I don't think I can do these practices. I can't get over there and do all this. And then a lot of other stuff happened, like the night before our Big 12 tournament. So the night before our first game, and my grandma ended up passing away. She was my best friend. We're getting on the plane to fly to Oklahoma or wherever it was. And I get our Dobo comes in. I'm taking an ice bath, like I'm recovering, whatever. He gives me the phone. He's like, it's your dad. And I knew immediately. I knew it was my grandma. And he told me like, she ended up having cancer. She knew about it. Didn't tell anybody because my grandpa went through that, didn't want to go through all that process, whatever. So she ended up like cracking her rib or something like that. And the cancer spread throughout her whole body in 24 hours. So like by the time I could even FaceTime, look at her, everything, she was gone. Like she was not there. She couldn't talk. She couldn't speak. She couldn't blink. She couldn't nothing. But they said like when I had FaceTimed her, she was the first person she like tried to blink when she saw my face on FaceTime. And that was really my best friend. Like we texted all the time. Like she was my biggest supporter. She talked about going wherever I went overseas to come visit me, whatever. So that happened the night before our first Big 12 game. And we had actually played y'all, I think, in the first round. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember them talking about that.
Yeah, and y'all ended up beating us. So that was my last game. And then after that, like you go through, you know how it is. Anytime you deal with anything in college, like personal life wise, you don't have time to deal with that because, it's the end of the season. It's finals time. You got to study for your exams. I flew out there for the funeral. I flew back home. Like I had no time to process anything. So after the season ended and I signed this contract, like out of nowhere, I'm starting to have this anxiety. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't go. Like, I cannot get on that plane. I'm having panic attacks. I can't leave my house. I can't go to work out without, like, really freaking out, feeling like I'm having a heart attack. And I'm like, this is not right. Like, something is not right. So I ended up canceling my contract to go to Germany. And this is my first professional contract. Wow. So after that, I'm like, my career is over. Like, people are thinking, you can't depend on this girl because she's going to sign. I signed and everything. She's going to sign and she's not going to get on that plane. Then I'm having more anxiety about like, okay, where do I stand now as an athlete? One, as an athlete. Two, if I'm not an athlete, how are people valuing me? Because a lot of my identity I put in being a student athlete. But I ended up signing another contract in January to go play in Spain. And the same thing, like I'm having panic attacks about getting on this plane. But my aunt was like, I'm going to fly with you and you're going to get on that plane.
Mm.
So I got on the plane, went to Spain. Everything was smooth after that. I had no problems. I loved playing overseas. Like once I was there, I was good. I'm like, I can't wait to go back. Like, where am I going next? After that, that was it. That was all I needed. I just needed that push to get over there, and I just needed time to process like everything that had happened in my life the last year with everything going on. And then also you're graduating. You're not in a rhythm anymore. You're not in a structure anymore. So it's so much different being in college and being in the real world, or even being a pro. Like you have so much free time and everything is on you. Like you're lifting weights, it's on you. You show up to practice early, that's on you. Do you want to get extra shots up? It's on you to go get treatment, to do whatever. So, and then it's after that you're living in a country by yourself. You know, you're on your own to make relationships and make friends and take all the experience in. So it's a big change. I think that's the biggest change from being in college and going to the pro level. So my senior year was like a whirlwind leading up to playing professionally too. But
Yeah.
it's all, I know it's all for a bigger plan. I mean, I'm here now and I love what I do and I'm able to pour into kids now. So I'm grateful for it all for sure.
Mm. I mean, there's so much there. And thank you for sharing that, first of all. I immediately think of just how much of a gift it was for your aunt to say, no, like, I'm going with you. And that's what it took, right? Like, you needed someone to be with you on that plane. And from then on, it was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Like, it just really reiterates the idea of, like, we were not meant to do things alone. And, like, she saw you having these panic attacks, and she knew how important it was for you to go, even though you were terrified and feeling anxiety. And just her seeing that need and stepping up and literally like flying with you to a different country is just amazing.
I never had anxiety before. I'm like, people are crazy. Like, how can life be that bad? And then it hit me and I'm like, what is going on? Like, yeah. So yeah, it was good to have her though, for sure.
So that first contract that you got out of to Germany, so what did you do during that time since you were staying in the States?
So that was probably for about 4 months, like September to January. I was just home, like working out, I took a time off, obviously, because I was still having so much anxiety. I wasn't able to like go work out or whatever. But after I had canceled that contract, I felt like the weight of the world was just lifted off my shoulders. I was like, okay, I have time to breathe now. Like, I have time to get in shape, get my ankle better. Because that was another thing too. I'm like freaking out, like they're gonna cut me because I'm over there and that's my first experience. And then it's gonna be in my resume. I was cut and all this stuff. So I had time to do more PT, get my body better, and everything like that. So I think that was the best thing that I could have done.
Right. That feels very much like, because like you said, it sort of came out of the blue, obviously on the heels of your grandmother's death, but the panic attacks came kind of out of the blue since you said you never struggled with anxiety. And I feel like when things like that happen, that seemingly just happen out of nowhere, feels like the Lord's protection in some way, like in kind of an odd way, where he was like stopping you from going overseas because you clearly needed that time to heal physically, but also emotionally, be able to grieve and just be around your family, right? And obviously heal your ankle, right? So it's just interesting looking back, like seeing that, like God was probably protecting you.
That's so true. And I mean, it's also interesting how the body will like your body was like, I need to process.
like stop.
Right.
I mean, I that's something that I think about, like the difference between the States and overseas in some ways. First of all, it's very interesting because they're playing year round. Like they're just like, they're playing in cups, they're playing in like world championships, they're playing in blah blah blah, like you name it, they're playing in it. But also on the flip side of that, like if someone is like hurt or something like that, like they will take the time to like, at least the girls that I've played with, they will like, okay, I'm gonna go sit out, like my ankle is really bugging me, I'm gonna go sit down. I'm like, you're gonna what? Like
Yes. Freaking playing with mono and a fractured leg and freaking I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I guess like because you're such a person who values hard work and had that instilled in you also and encouraged throughout college, it seems. And I think as an American also, and someone for you who has dealt with all this injury, obviously it was part of your mindset to push through. Has that changed at all? Have you learned to give yourself some time, or what is that like?
Yes and no. Because I'm still like in my mind, like every day I'm like, I want to be the best. I want to be the best shooter in Europe. I'm gonna be like I want to be the best that I can be. But I think I noticed like as I'm getting older, my body's starting to hurt a little bit more. So like
Yeah.
when I was younger, like home for the summers, I'm doing sprints. Like I have to be in shape. I have to do whatever I can. Now I'm like I'm not conditioning until August. I don't need to do that all summer because my body cannot handle that. And if I want to play for as long as I can, my body doesn't need that. So knowing what your body needs and doesn't need, I'm not pounding every day just because I gotta work, work, work. Now it's about really working smarter. And like I used to be in the gym for hours twice a day, but my body doesn't need that now. I need to go hard for 1 or 2 hours and I'm good. But I definitely still have that mindset. Like even in the games too, I'm like, no, you're not scoring on me or whatever it is. I'm very, very competitive. Like I know I can't be perfect all the time. So when I'm not, I get like I'm frustrated. Like I'm like, I have to make those shots. I whatever. So yeah. It's like 50-50.
Mm.
I feel that.
I'm just wondering, Katrina, with all of the like instances of adversity and hardship you've talked about, like both personally and professionally, what do you think is one of the biggest lessons you've learned?
Trusting in God's plan for me. Because like I said, like in high school when I had tore my ACL, I was like, well, not going to school. Then boom, he gave me the offer.
Yeah.
Then when I dislocated my ankle, I was like, well, not going to training camp. I ended up in training camp. So it's like it might not be my timing and what I want, but knowing that he's in control of everything and he just pieces of the puzzle perfectly to where it needs to be.
Wow.
That's good. It's interesting because those periods of transition are already hard enough. And like before, yeah, like right in between like these crucial moments, yeah, it was like you just get kneecapped, like, or literally like your ankle just gets swiped out or something. As if you needed to be reminded in a vulnerable time. God was like, no, no, really, sit down.
For real this time. One more time again.
Right.
Because that's what it felt like. It was like every time I'm getting up to here, then it's back down. I'm like, I'm almost there, back down. So I'm like, there has to be a reason why this is happening. Yeah. I mean, things have turned out like I was in a good situation in Dallas with training camp and I'm in a good position now with my resume overseas and just the respect that I've gotten and being able to get my name out there. So in the long run, it's starting to work out.
Mm. So, speaking of training camp, so I have, believe it or not, very little experience with basketball. And so, can you tell me just what was training camp like for you? What were some of the positives? What were some things that maybe were not as positive, if any? Yeah, what was that like for you?
I mean, it was a great experience for me. I was able to learn from a lot of great players, great coaches as well. Like Courtney Paris was on the staff, Jasmine Thomas was on the staff. She was a 9-year vet, all star. So she was kind of like our player development person and somebody who I would go to for extra workouts or whatever and cling to. So it's nice going through that experience and having those connections now. But training camp was tough. Like I would say, like I would have to argue 100% Dallas had one of the toughest training camps.
Really?
So we were working out like in the morning. You go to get extra shots up if you want. I was always getting extra shots up. Then we would have weights. Then we would do stations for an hour. Then we had a 2-hour practice after that, team practice. And then I'm saying after to get shots up. So it's the same thing every single day. You know, this is where players come to prove that they belong in the league. So it's tough. It's tough, but it's fun. It's fun being a part of that community and kind of getting your name in the mix and getting that experience. But I would say, like, through all of that, there's always going to be politics to whatever situation you're in and whatever organization you're a part of. There is politics. It just comes down to, like, there's too many great players and there's not enough opportunities for those players. But I mean, the league is expanding, so that will be really nice in the future. But it's tough right now. You could put several teams together of players who've been cut or waived during the season, and they can compete with any of these WNBA teams. So it's just a matter of growing that opportunity for women's basketball. But I think now it's the perfect time for that. Obviously, it's blowing up right now. So future's really bright for women's basketball.
Man, I hope so. Seems like it.
So you played in 9 countries, right?
You said yes.
Okay, sorry. I missed that.
I was like,
KP, your mic cuts out like the first like couple words that you say sometimes. So like sometimes if you say like yes, then it's just like you sitting there and be like
I was like, am I alone here?
Yes.
Like, also, how funny would it have been if I heard you say that and that was it. That was the end of my question. I just go, so you played in 9 countries? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. That's all I got. So you played in 9 countries. I'm very interested. Do any of the countries stick out to you as far as like having some interesting, weird experiences?
True. Can you also name the countries first, by the way? Yeah.
So first I went to Spain, and then I went to Ireland. When I was in Ireland, our season got canceled because of COVID. So that was like COVID time. So then after Ireland, I went to Brazil. Then I went to Colombia/Bolivia. Those were like 2 and 1 because it was like a FIBA tournament that was going on there. So those were those 2. After that, I went to Slovenia, then Hungary, then Turkey and Russia.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Back to Maddie's question. What was your question again, Maddie?
Just what do any of those countries stick out as you having like a really unique experience or like a weird experience there?
I would say Turkey for sure. That's like, I could do maybe 3 podcasts about my time in Turkey, and I was there for 4 months. But honestly, first, I would say like all the other countries I played in were absolutely amazing. Like I had amazing experiences, amazing teammates, amazing coaches. Like everything was very, very smooth everywhere else I played. In Turkey, it was a little bit different. So I played for a team that like they had a huge earthquake the season before. So like the city that they had played in, everything was wiped out of.
Oh my goodness.
And so I had even gotten there a little bit late because it was like up in the air about what city we would be playing in at the time. Like, were we going to be in government assisted apartments, like everything like that, because this city was completely wiped out. So I get to Turkey and they're like, okay, we're going to live in this city. It's about an hour or two hours away from the earthquake. Like there's no damage there, blah, 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 whatever. So I get there and they send me a picture of this man who's my driver. So I walk out, find the driver, speaks no English. So we have to drive an hour to the city. And once we get to the city that we're in, we're staying in this like hotel. It was like literally in rubble. Like buildings are on the ground, like on the street that the hotel is at. And we get into the hotel, like there's stains everywhere, like it's dirty. My door is like this much open on the bottom. So when it was raining, my kitchen was flooding. Like I could not make this stuff up. Like I took pictures of everything. I texted my agent. I was like, what am I doing here? And then so we didn't have Wi-Fi like the first week we were there. Other Americans were like, I'm not playing without Wi-Fi. I need my Wi-Fi. I need to talk to my family, like all this stuff. Girl ended up leaving like 2 weeks into getting there. So we get there and the president is finally like, okay, like we're gonna move cities because clearly this isn't working. There would be days we didn't have a gym or we didn't have a bus to take us to the gym. Like it was not it. There was no restaurants, there was no taxis, there was nothing where we were. So we moved to this other city and they're like, okay, this is where we're gonna be. This is where we're gonna play our games. This is where we're gonna practice. Nice facility. Like we shared it with another club that's a big EuroLeague club. So we're like, okay, we can use all their facilities, whatever. We get to these like dorms. We don't have a TV, don't have a microwave, don't have cooking utensils, don't have an oven, don't have a stove, nothing. And they keep telling us like, yeah, we ordered the TVs, we're packing them up, we're bringing them next week, whatever. We're bringing the hot plates, cooking stuff, whatever. Still to this day, when I left Turkey in January, still didn't have a microwave, still didn't have a TV. They had brought us hot plates, didn't get paid on time, started not getting paid, so all the Americans left. After all the Americans left, there was 6 girls on the team. They didn't practice. They showed up to the games. They had no practice. Like it was just an experience I will never forget and I will never do again. Like I swear I can't make any of this stuff up. It was bad. It was really bad. Like they went through 5 Americans before January.
Oh my.
They went 0 for 28. Did not win a single game. Yes, it was terrible. It was terrible. But I realized it's not like that everywhere in Turkey. It was just this club. But
yes,
really, it was a really sad situation because like a lot of people lost their families, lost their homes, and it was just not a good situation to bring people into and also to continue to play in that city. Like people, you're driving by storage boxes, a parking lot full of storage boxes that people were living in. And it was really sad and it was terrible and people were crying before the games on the court. Like it was just not a good situation. You know, it was sad for the families and the people that were there for sure, but they should have never had a team that season for sure.
My gosh. That is just, yeah, you can't make that up. That is so wild. Thank God that was not your first year playing overseas.
I would never play basketball again.
No, especially if
I would be like, if this is what overseas is, I don't want any part. No.
Right. Especially if it was you, like you had been struggling with anxiety and panic attacks and you finally got on the plane and you're like, yes, we made it. And then it's like that. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And it took me a while because I'm like, this league is amazing. Like all the other teams in this league are full of WNBA players. Like this is the best move for my career. But it just got to a point like I couldn't do it anymore. And it was not good. We weren't getting paid. It was just bad. It was bad.
That is an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely memorable.
It's hard also, like, because I mean, you hear these stories of, like, whenever a town gets, like, devastated by some natural disaster. Like, I've heard it, like, a couple of times. Like, the one that comes to mind is in, like, New Orleans, I think. Where the Saints at, the football team. That when they had all that weather down there and all of that devastation, the football team was kind of the spirit of the city for a while. And so I guess I understand why they were trying to, like, keep it going.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're gonna play for the people. There was not one person in the stands.
Right. They don't have homes. Like they're not worried about basketball.
They're not worried about. Yes.
They're living in a box. Like.
Yeah.
God, it was so sad. It was so sad.
Yeah, that is sad. Ugh.
I don't even know where to go from there. I'm like traumatized a little bit for you, Katrina. I'm like, oh my gosh.
We'll just say, what has been, if you could like choose a favorite country, or specifically where you were, like in that country.
Okay, my favorite city was definitely when I was playing in Spain. I was playing in a city called Santander, which was like right on the beach. north of Spain, and it's kind of like the place where the Spaniards went to vacation. So that place was amazing. Favorite like season overall was probably Slovenia, because when I was there, we had won all three championships, and it was a huge thing. Like the people were amazing. I think the coach that I had when I was in Slovenia, he really made me feel like, okay, like I belong here, like I belong, like this is what I should be doing. Like the confidence he gave me was crazy, and that kind of led me to like, okay, I can do this. I can be one of the best in the world or in Europe or whatever. So, and that's the best I had played in my professional career for sure.
Awesome. I've heard Slovenia is beautiful too.
If you have a chance to go visit, highly recommend.
Can you think of a moment where you experienced culture shock, like something in one of the countries that you didn't like expect to see, or like customs or anything like that?
Russia would be like the biggest thing. That's where I was at most recently. First of all, when I got to the airport, they took my passport for like an hour and didn't tell me anything. So I was like, I'm getting deported immediately. Oh.
Little does she know, she's a war criminal, and she
I'm
is
getting
being
deported in fireworks.
You see the fireworks?
You also, whenever you were doing this, it kept doing thumbs up on the screen. It was.
Is that what you were laughing at, Peyton?
Yes, she
Okay,
kept doing it, and it was like the single thumbs up makes you like a little like a thought bubble, and it's like a like button in the thought bubble, and it kept showing up, and I guess I was the only one who was seeing it because I was like, this is so funny. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Oh,
her getting deported.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, deported.
And there was like grown women around me crying, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is it. Like I'm not supposed to be here. I thought for sure I was getting sent on the next plane home, but they came out like an hour later and was like, I was like, what was that for? And he was like, oh, we were just checking your documents, like whatever. And I was like, okay.
You're like, great, yeah, no worries. Like
in Russia is like, okay, this would be like a culture shock, I think, for me, is when they greet people, like they kiss on the lips. Like my coach is kissing the players, my coach is kissing the assistant coach, like man and women, they're both married, like that's just what they do.
On the mouth. Huh.
Translator, like, that man is married. And she was like, no, like it's very old school, like that's normal.
Did you have anyone try to kiss you as a greeting, or prior to learning that was a thing, or were you informed before that happened?
I think they just knew, like in America you don't do that, so right. I think they knew, like, let me not just go kiss her on the lips, because if that happened, I would be like, whoa.
That sounds like they learned the hard way, like probably the first Americans they ever had playing.
They're like,
oh my gosh. Wow. Well, noted. Noted.
Yeah.
I did not know that was a thing, so.
Even the kiss on the cheek is much too much for me, because, well, again, I'm a COVID baby as far as the overseas basketball experience goes. And so I'm just like, like fist bumps was what we did for like a couple of years, but then now they're coming at me with and I'm like, first of all, which cheek are we going to, because I do not want to meet in the middle.
We need to work this out ahead of time.
Like, do I give you a normal hug? Do I give you a high five? Like, yeah, it's too much for me.
It's too much.
I feel like that would be your worst nightmare, because you're not really physically touch oriented anyway. I was gonna say that. I'm like, Peyton, you're like, I don't know if I'd really like that. I'm like, you don't even like to hug very much, let alone. Peyton, next time I see you, I'm planting one.
Good luck reaching me, girl. Good luck.
That's true. I'd have to get a running start.
Oh, I'm dead. Well, moving on from that. Wow. But I think let's get into the rapid fire questions. They're rapid fire, but honestly, some people talk more for rapid fire ones than the normal questions. So,
so they're rapid fire in that Peyton and I ask them quickly, but take your time answering.
Okay, so first one, what's the best and or weirdest food you've had overseas?
Chicken heart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chicken heart in Brazil.
How was it prepared? Like fried or like baked or?
It wasn't fried, so yeah, I guess baked. We were at one of those Brazilian steakhouses, and they just brought it by, and I'm like, what is that? My teammates are like, yeah, me. I'm like, I don't want it. I tried one, but I don't want it.
Yeah. Okay, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh.
Night owl. Are you a Spotify or Apple Music listener? Okay, Apple Music. Look on your phone and tell us what the last song you listened to is.
How do I find that? Stains by Future. I just get in my car and I put my songs on shuffle. If I don't like it, I just skip it. So I just get a mix of everything every day.
Okay, what's your go-to 3-point celebration?
I don't really have one. Probably just this.
Classic.
That's it.
Yeah,
classic. I did this once in college. I don't know why. Well, first of all, you know me. I didn't shoot threes in college, really.
Yeah.
So when I did, I was excited, okay? But one time, like it was my senior season. And so, people were doing this, like, period.
Stop.
And I was trying to be so sneaky about it. But of course, there's kids everywhere. And I was like, I made a three. And first of all, I did this and I was like this. And I just did it to myself. And I was like, yes, okay. And then they caught it and they're like, oh, this was so cold. And I was like, guys, calm down.
The reporters were all over that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, I'm not trying to find the camera. I'm literally looking down. Alec is our camera guy, and he was the one that made it, and he, sent it to me. And he with the, little ice emojis, or, the cold shivering.
Yeah.
I was like,
amazing.
That is hilarious.
Anyway, that was a rare moment where I was like, I'm gonna do this, and it was caught in 4K. So, right.
Insert clip here, Peyton. Insert clip here. We need
no,
that.
Editor. Please do that.
Yes.
We'll try and find it. Williams to shoot a three. Hits it. Okay, describe yourself as a player, first of all, in 3 words.
Passionate, competitive, and driven.
Wow.
Good.
Intense. Okay. Now describe yourself as a person in 3 words.
Funny, personable, and I don't know, goofy. I guess goofy and funny are kind of like the same one, but I'm always
He's funny and goofy.
I always have the energy, high energy.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good.
Which is, I mean, the follow-up question to that was, how are they similar or different? And they are very different. your 3 words, but that's the dichotomy of being an athlete, no?
I think, when I cross the line, I definitely, I flip a switch for sure. I'll definitely talk. I'll talk to you. I'll yell if I get an N1. But then off the court, I'll be like, hey, you want to go get some food?
Yeah.
Big kiss on the mouth. Want to go get some food?
Because I've always been an underdog with a chip on my shoulder. So when it comes to on the court, I'm nothing's easy. I'm I belong here too. So chip on my shoulder for sure when I'm on the court.
Okay, this is a very serious one now, Katrina. If you could bring any restaurant from the U.S. overseas with you, what restaurant would it be?
I don't know. I'm gonna just have to say what comes to mind and say Chick-fil-A.
I know that's right.
That's the second time we've gotten that.
Yeah.
Out of 3 times. So
true.
Chick-fil-A is a golden one. That's you can never go wrong with Chick-fil-A.
Lord's Chicken,
never go wrong.
Absolutely. Yes. No other country has managed to have anything close to Chick-fil-A yet. So USA, baby.
Chick-fil-A, baby.
That is what I will be celebrating this 4th of July. I will be celebrating the fact that we are the only country with Chick-fil-A.
There you go.
Yes. Actually, Katrina, if coaching doesn't work out, I think you should try to establish the first international Chick-fil-A.
Okay, that'll be my job for sure.
That's your backup.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, on that note, Maddie, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to. There's nothing I could say to top that or ask. So I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Hey, what better way to end it than talking about the Lord's chicken?
Truly.
KP, thank you so much for being here on the Eurostep. Thanks for sharing a bit of your story and the reason why you play. And you're such a talented player, and from hearing your story, an even better person. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us. This has been the Eurostep. I've been your host, Peyton Williams. This is my co-host,
Maddie Byer. Did you hear that silence?
I did.
That was palpable.
I know, I was a little sad. So,
okay.
we'll
Gotta
just
end it on
sleep.
A serious note.
All right. And good night.